G'day, I'm Warwick Schiller, and in this video I want to talk to you guys about horses that have a little bit of separation anxiety when you take them away from other horses and things you can do to help them. So the horse in this video was at a clinic in Montana recently, and when the lady first brought him into the arena, he was whinnying and doing a bit of stuff, concerned about his friend back at the stables or the barn. And after I took a hold of him and did some little things, he was quite a bit different. So I want to talk about, I'm going to show you the clip in a minute, but I want to talk about things that I did that helped him. And so if you think about, there's an old saying from a Chinese philosopher named Lao Tzu that says, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. And if you are peaceful, you are living in the present. And being present is basically having your mind and your body in the same place at the same time. And a horse with separation anxiety, his body's here, but his mind is somewhere else. And something that I'll do with those horses is just use my flag to bring their attention back to me, which brings their mind back to where their body is, and that tends to help them quite a bit. But there's another part of, you've got to think about why a horse is anxious when they're away from their friends and they're with us. Why aren't they that comfortable with us? And I really think that a horse's sense of security comes from the awareness of the herd. And so this is where you've got to be present, because they can tell when you're present, they can tell when you're not. And something I see a lot of people do around horses is stepping backwards. The horse might move towards them slightly, is stepping backwards without knowing their feet are actually stepping backwards. And as you'll see in this video, it's quite common. And what that communicates to the horse is you don't even know what your body's doing. So how could you be a help in keeping an eye out for danger when you don't really know what your body's doing? And so it's important that you are aware of that, completely aware of your body. You can be present. And the other thing is not doing too much. As you can see in this video, I don't do very much. I actually do a lot less than the lady that owns the horse was doing, but it makes a huge difference. And in this video, I'll talk about something about 4 things. And so recently we had a friend of ours named Beth Ann Standig on the podcast, and she is a equine assisted therapist. And she talks about the 4 awareness channels when you're having any communication with another sentient being. Number 1 is what's going on with me. Number 2 is what's going on with them. Number 3 is what's going on between the two of us. And number 4 is what's going on in the environment. And I see a lot of people when they're around their horse is very aware of number 2 and number 4, what's going on with the horse and what's causing the horse to do that, but quite unaware of number 1, what's going on with me, and number 3, what's going on between me and them. And so number 1 would be your body doing things you don't know it's doing, like stepping backwards. And number 3 would be trying to control the horse but being quite ineffective at doing it, and that doesn't work either. So take a look at this video and you'll see right from the start what it looks like, and then we'll go into what I did to help the horse a little bit. When she first brought him in the arena, he was obedient. Like if she asked him to back up, he'd back up, but his thoughts didn't change at all towards her. And when she touched him, he kind of would reject her, like he'd look away or walk off, one or the other. And like I said, she could ask him to do things, but he just didn't really pay any attention to her and was quite distracted, tended to move into her a bit, or he'd move away from her, then he'd get concerned about stuff, but almost nothing she did really made much of an impact on him. So what is your name?
Mary.
Mary?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know, Mary, right then that your horse moved a couple of steps, and as your horse did, you stepped backwards?
No.
No. So we're gonna have to work on number 1, what's going on with you. Okay? And so we don't have any panel set up here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a hold of your horse for a second.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll just have you wander out of the way there. So when your horse wanders off like this, So this is following the flow chart. If your horse hits the end of the lead rope there, I'm just going to redirect his attention back over here. So why do I use a flag? Because it redirects their attention. You've got a whip. You've got a whip, and you've done that 5 or 6 times already, and you didn't get the same response. Because you got a physical response. You were actually asking your horse to move, basically move over. What I did was I said, there's something over here, and whoa, what is that? And what happened right there? When your horse's thoughts came over here, all of that stuff went away. So I redirected his or her thoughts over here. And she's standing a lot stiller already. So according to the flow chart, I'm not going to do anything to her until she hits the end of the lead rope. So right here, if she looks at something, I'm going to look at it. Yeah, I'm going to communicate my awareness. I'm going to see that. But see right there, her head goes down. She's licking and chewing right there. She wants to look over there. I'm going to look over there and I go, yep, I see it, but it looks fine to me. She looks over there. I'm going to look over there. She wants to say hello. That's the engagement bit right there. And you might notice, hey, sweetness, you might notice, sorry, I forgot your name already. Mary. When I first walked up to you, your horse was not really that interested in you. The first thing your horse did to me was walk up and say hi. And when your horse did, I said, hey, how's it going? Which is, that's starting that social engagement break. Okay? Remember over there I said, and she's got a foot cocked right here. I said, when humans or horses get, there we go, there's a big old shake of the head right there, and there's going to be a big old lick and chew right here, that head's getting lower. And I've only done one thing. Now we've got the other foot cocked. I said over there, when a mammal gets concerned, the first thing they do is look for social engagement. Like, what's everybody else think? If that's not available, then they go into flight, and that's not available, they go into fight. She's been doing there you go. See how we look like two horses hanging out in the pasture right now? See the difference? And I said I've only done one thing, but I've actually done 2 things. Well, I've done 3 things, maybe 4. The first thing I did was when she said, hey, can I come say hi to you? I was totally aware that she'd come up and said hi. I wasn't talking to you and totally missed the opportunity. She walked up and she said, hey, how's it going? I said, hey, good, how you going? While I was talking to you. That's the first thing I did. And there's another big old lick and chew. That's the first thing I did. The second thing I did was when she moved towards me right then, I didn't step backwards. So with her, you were kind of in defense mode. Like every time she moved towards you, she was making you do that, and you weren't aware you were doing that. And so if you don't know your feet are stepping backwards, she knows that you don't know what your feet are doing. Does that make sense there? Which makes her feel insecure. See how much lower her head is right here? The third thing I did was when she hit the end of the lead rope, I took this flag and waved a little bit, and I waved it too much for her, but I was watching you with the whip, and you were kind of tapping her with the whip, and there wasn't, hey darling, how's it going? Hello. There was not a whole lot of, when you were tapping her with the whip, there wasn't a whole lot of response from her, so when I pulled that flag out, I kind of waved it too big for her, but that's, that's neither here nor there. I wouldn't move it that quick the next time. Hey darling, how's it going? I wouldn't move it that quick next time. So those are probably the 3 things I've done. And you might notice she really hasn't moved her feet at all since then. So 1, social connection. When she says hi, I'm present enough to notice she says hi, and I say hi. I don't say, hey, back off, leave me alone. Not now, I'm busy. I am here with you. That's number 1. Number 2 is being in control of me, knowing what my feet are doing. And then number 3 was, so if you guys looking at that flow chart thing right there, hey, sweetness, are my horse's feet moving? Yes. Which way? Are they moving towards you or away from you? If it's away from you and they're distraction and anxious, when they hit the end of the lead rope, redirect their attention back to you. And so the reason I do that, Mary, is I'm trying to teach my horse how to tie up. I'm trying to teach my horse how to steer. And so as the slack comes out of the lead rope, then I bring their thoughts back. I want their thoughts to follow the feel of this lead rope. If I'm riding around and I pick up on this lead rope, I want this horse to think that way, and when they think that way, their feet will go that way. Make sense there? So there's not a lot to do. It's not hard to do this stuff. It's just, you've got to make sure you're not doing too much or too much of the wrong things. Like right here, she's coming closer to me. You notice my left knee is still cocked and I'm relaxed. I didn't shrink back. I didn't get mad and have a go at me. I'm just here. And that's part of that number one awareness channel. I have to be aware of what's going on with me. So you can see right there that horse made quite a bit of a change quite quickly, and you know, really the only thing I did was get that horse's attention back to me rather than physically ask the horse to do something. So I just worked on the mind, not the feet, and that's a version of, you know, getting to the mind to get to the feet, not getting to the feet to get to the mind. You know, that lady was backing that horse up a lot, you know, before I took a hold of the horse, but the mind didn't really change, and so, you know, all I did was really get a hold of the mind. But in there it talked about the flow chart. I probably should explain what that is. So on our online video library, one of the many things on there is a flow chart that I call the standing still and present flow chart, and it's what I will use. It's what I used in that video, and it's what I will use whenever I'm standing on the ground and I've got a horse on a lead rope. And the flow chart is called the standing still and present flow chart because by the end of it, your horse will be standing still and present. You know, a horse can be standing still and distracted, so standing still and looking off at something else. So that means their mind and their body are in the same place at the same time. And a horse can be standing still and in their head, like their ears can be internally fixated and they're standing there, but they're not present and aware of what's going on around, and they're in a little bit of shutdown. Neither of those is a good place to start trying to teach your horse anything. That whole standing still and present flow chart is about getting your horse standing still and aware of what's going on and receptive to being asked to do something. And, you know, I'll flash it up here on the screen, but it's not something you can take a quick look at and do, because each one of those little steps I have on my website, I have a video that shows you what's involved in that step, because looking at it, you probably won't really know what to do with it. But that flow chart, a few years ago now, someone said to me, so, you know, there's too much stuff to remember. You know, how do you remember all this stuff? And I said, well, it's not really that hard. You know, when I get a hold of a horse, there's only a selected number of things I'm going to do. And in that flow chart, it starts out, is your horse standing still? Yes or no? And then from there you go, is your horse whatever. But there's not that many decisions to make. But for me, that whole, anytime I'm standing on the ground and I've got the lead rope in my hand, I'm using that standing still and present flow chart, and it's what gets them, like I said, standing still and present, so that I could actually ask them to do something. But when I'm doing that standing still and present flow chart, I'm only responding to what they're doing. So it's basically, we're dancing and they're leading the dance. They're calling the shots. It's not, I don't decide, I decide I want to do something. It's all about getting them to a place of presence where they're, like I said, they're standing still and they're present. And that for me is the start of trying to teach them anything online.